G'day, have I got a story for you? Check the disclaimer. Season 2, Episode 9, Labyrinth. This episode was written by Laura Reily Truth. Ambrielle speaking.
I feel a smile spread across my face as I listen to the rapid explanation of her plan, her determination clear in her subtle new mannerisms. One thing is confirmed. When she makes a decision, she does so wholeheartedly and implements as much as she can to meet her resolve. Bright Eyes stops pacing, looking at me with an expression that reads,
"Are you listening?"
I nod before she can ask and say, "I just do not want to interrupt your train of thought." She pauses and looks at me with a barely noticeable expression of relief, her thoughts in my mind asking,
"What do you think?"
I respond in my mind as all of our thoughts exchange a detailed conversation that only lasts a split moment, formulating our plan. Communicating this way is much faster and far more accurate. Her most present concern is Little Sweetheart's reaction. I do not share in her concern, but I definitely have an advantage in this area. I ensure that Bright Eyes has all the information I can give her in order to show herself to be a safe person. Little Sweetheart does not trust easily and takes quite some time to warm to anyone new, if she does at all. I watch Bright Eyes' thoughts as every possible deviation is considered, her mind quickly inserting plans in response to every potential interruption she can think of. I offer solutions as I have them, but most are not needed. Bright Eyes is determined that she does not want there to be any mistakes. Thus, we consider everything. I feel the excitement bubbling inside me as I watch Bright Eyes, using her new talent unrestricted, her preparation swooping quickly through every possible variation and delaying all concern for discrepancies with meticulous precautions, however unlikely those discrepancies may be. My thoughts spiral through all of my knowledge that may help in this situation, allowing her to observe all that has happened and all that may come. I watch her sift through every piece of information with expedient efficiency, drawing fast, logical conclusions and surrounding them with appropriate defenses. Bright Eyes turns towards me. Our thoughts a calm, sedentary contrast to the whirlwind of chaotic strategies that filled them only a moment earlier. Her face holds an expression one might call satisfaction, were it not so subtle. I hear in my thoughts,
"We're ready."
I smile. We certainly are. I wrap my arms around my legs and link my fingers together, my head resting on my knees as I wait. I am used to being ignored, used to being regarded as a figment of the imagination, or even as something intrusive. It does not bother me. I am here to help, and sometimes that means just being here, regardless of acknowledgement or, on occasion, even notice. Sometimes that means days or weeks of being ignored, just so they know someone is here. Whether I am trusted or not, whether I am remembered or not, I am going to be here. There is a difference, though, with Little Sweetheart, because no matter what they do, her mind link between us connects every time they are finished with their wipes or purges. So, where others lose their memories and may no longer notice me, Little Sweetheart is always aware of me to some extent. She lays perfectly still on her back, looking at the ceiling. I see her mind rotating through the few memories she has, sorting through them as though she does not believe they are real, trying to determine which ones to disregard as false. I whisper, "They are all false, Little Sweetheart." She tries not to hear me, though I can see she agrees with my assertion. Her mind starts running through the familiar train of thought that always follows.
"Why aren't my memories real? Why do other people have real memories and I don't? Maybe I'm not a person. Maybe I'm not meant to have real memories."
Yes, you are, I say, slightly louder. And you do have real memories. Then I hear her thoughts again.
If I'm meant to have real memories, where are they?
I smile and say in her thoughts, Are you asking me? She turns her head to face me. Many only hear me and are not aware of where I actually am, but little sweetheart always knows. She says in her thoughts,
I suppose I am. You seem to know.
I respond, You can go through all of my thoughts and memories if you want to. You would be able to see where they are for yourself. Though her expression does not change, I know she is skeptical. She always is after a purge. She turns to again face the ceiling as I feel her going through everything I know, everything I remember. I smile. I know this will not only give her the information she seeks, but also show her that we are friends. I watch the floating schematic of information revolving around me, something I can only describe as a three-dimensional representation of the thought timeline charted inside Bright Eye's mind, and now also in mine. An array of translucent color-coded dates and tasks, all connected by thin, precise beams of white light that remind me of raindrops caught on the strands of a spider's web. In fact, a web is a good way to describe it. A web of links attaching in appropriate order to every point in Bright Eye's plan, taking every possible scenario into account, everything leading back to the central point, the objective. It's a masterpiece of thought. I watch Bright Eye's gaze following along the strands of her thought plan as she triple checks everything, her expression full of determination. Every planned step is now foolproof. As I hear the woman's shoes clacking methodically along the hall, I turn to face Bright Eyes, her feet already moving over the edge of the bed the same way they always do. Today, however, she moves faster than usual, with much more purpose. Today is step 1. I take Bright Eye's hand in mine and give it a squeeze. Ready? I ask. She nods.
Yes.
And holds tighter. I reach just in front of me with my free hand, pinching my finger and thumb together and picturing our destination in my mind. I pull so slightly and a rush of wind breezes past us at pace as we travel from here to there in a minuscule fragment of a second. I catch Bright Eyes before the instability causes her to stumble and give her a smile. Are you all right? I ask. She quickly stabilizes herself and responds,
I am.
This means of travel is not always the most reassuring and can require a moment for people to steady themselves. Though Bright Eyes recovered quickly and seems mostly unfazed, I know she will become accustomed to it easily. I watch silently as Bright Eyes looks around us with interest, observing things she has never seen before with wide eyes. Her hand still holding mine semi-tight, as though ensuring I will not disappear. I feel her mind reaching out, searching, her eyes unconsciously following the direction of her thoughts as she scans the area. She looks up at me for a moment, and I hear her numerous thoughts all at once, but one specific question becomes apparent.
Are you sure we're in the right place?
I nod and respond in my mind. She will be here. I understand her question. Bright Eyes is expecting an immediate mind connection, as she should. Likely this will quickly occur the moment of her arrival. We both suddenly feel it, our minds connecting with hers. She's here. Her big eyes look up at us with skepticism, before a smile graces her tiny round face and recognition sparkles in her eyes. Though her lips are yet to form words, her mind is awake and very communicative. Within a split second, she is fully aware of all of our plans and is looking up at the thought timeline inside Bright Eye's mind. Her face bubbling with excitement and ideas overflowing from her in what appears to be a chaotic, random pattern. We both watch as her fingers elegantly adjust different positions in the thought timeline, in awe as she plays the timeline like an instrument, dancing about, flawlessly shifting different positions into a much more creative and unpredictable arrangement. A warm, nostalgic feeling washes over me as I remember when time was much more music to me than logic. I feel a slight smile adorn my face, and I resolve to once again view it as such. Squirt steps back, looking at her completed work with the same expression I recognize from Bright Eyes. But rather than double and triple checking, she nods once and turns to face us. A big smile on her face as she says, "I guess we are up to step 2. With my gaze still transfixed by the thought timeline, unable to find any error, I nod and agree. I guess so. Bright Eyes looks up at me as we are suddenly surrounded by what looks like a huge castle, full of halls, stairs, and rooms. Squirt bows and gestures to our surroundings. Welcome to my mind. She begins to walk through the seemingly unending corridors, explaining her mind as though we are on a house tour. Bright Eyes' thoughts are quickly rotating through all the different ways we could implement step 2, when Squirt stops abruptly. She turns, looking intently at Bright Eyes as she says, "I'm thinking something that periodically rotates, or maybe continuously rotates, at different speeds, in multiple directions, or no direction. And I don't think it should be logical or organized, it should be random." I watch Bright Eyes' expression change slightly to a sparkle in her eyes that hints at a smile unseen, and I know Squirt and Bright Eyes are going to be great friends. We begin pulling rooms and corridors into different positions, altering their axes, moving their entrances, or removing them completely. Some are repositioned, attaching to nothing as though floating in a void. Some appear to be there but aren't, and some are no longer visible but are still present. We add many more rooms, corridors, outdoor landscapes, boxes, halls, bags, void areas of space, tunnels, anything we can think of, in many sizes, locations, and axes. Her mind becoming so incredibly vast that it appears to go on endlessly. Then the mechanisms are installed. Simple and effective devices, so many of them, all strategically placed in order to periodically move all the points and places inside Squirt's mind environment in a seemingly random pattern that starts and stops intermittently, transforming her mind into an ever-changing labyrinth of thought and storage. More mechanisms. These cause different areas to grow and shrink in size, or disappear for a time before randomly returning, sometimes in a different location. Sometimes these spaces fade in and out or pass through each other, like they aren't really there. Other spaces exist in the exact same place and space as each other, until they don't. Next, we begin filling every space and everywhere with so much information. Facts, fiction, stories, ideas, pictures, memories, both real and false. We want as much information in here as we can to cause the best result. Pieces of information are broken apart and joined with different information that looks like a random smattering of nonsensical data. No one could understand anything they might find in here, assuming they could find anything. Her mind is so full, but looks so sparsely filled. Every piece of information spread out through many rooms and spaces. Some we allow to simply float in what looks like void. Everything stored in what seems to be a random and chaotic mess, such that the only person who can navigate it at all is Squirt herself. I watch as a grin forms on Squirt's lips, and she begins dancing through her newly organized thoughts and memories, entering and exiting exactly where she intends to. She moves through doorways, windows, arches, mouse holes, through walls, into boxes, out of bags, through the ground, in and out of the void. Sometimes she seems very tall or very small or in multiple locations at once. Sometimes we cannot see all of her, like part of her is located elsewhere. Eventually, she exits right in front of us and bows. I smile. Squirt's mind has grown so expansive. We cannot see its end. This is exactly what we wanted. Bright Eyes would still like to test this herself and make sure Squirt's mind is definitely impregnable. Squirt and I watch as Bright Eyes does her best attempt to find different pieces of information multiple times, appearing in the wrong spaces over and over again, often finding the incorrect information or different information, but never finding what she is actually seeking. We add everything I have in my mind and everything Bright Eyes has in hers, and allow Squirt to place it wherever she would normally allow it to be stored. Then Bright Eyes tries again, looking for her own information, something that would normally look different from Squirt's and also be something Bright Eyes should be able to recognize. Once again, Bright Eyes is unsuccessful, finding random irrelevant information, or incorrect information, or an incomprehensible document of distracting drivel. Squirt is continuously going to collect her when she is unable to find her way back.
Perfect,
she says after her last attempt. I nod at them both and say, no one else could navigate this, not even Bright Eyes who helped build it. Bright Eyes lets her shoulders drop a little before turning towards Squirt.
Step 3,
she says.
Keep it safe.
She allows her thought timeline schematic to pass from her mind to Squirt's, not a duplicate of the information this time, the original. Squirt nods. I will, as the information disappears from sight and joins the mass of sporadically spread information already contained here. We all share a knowing look. This is what must be done to keep our plans safe. We bid Squirt farewell, thanking her for her help and contributions. She seems exactly as I remember, eager to help and ready for action. I take Bright Eye's hand once again, looking over Squirt's mind once more, before I reach out in front of me with my free hand, pinching my finger and thumb together and picturing our destination. I pull again, and in a tiny fragment of a split second, we arrive at our destination through a brief flurry of wind.
Thank you so much for joining us with the cuppa. We appreciate your company.